The truth has been revealed surrounding the disgruntled all-star point guard of the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant and his abilities and whether or not he will be moved to this Miami Heat organization in the middle of this season. I'm here to break down all of the new information we have surrounding Ja and this Memphis Grizzlies organization, whether or not they're going in their separate directions, and if Tyler Hero could be the answer to all of those questions. We'll break down all of that on this episode of Heat Digest. But first, please do remember this video is brought to you by Kalshi. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the US. And if you scroll down to the description and click on the link and use code DIGEST NBA when signing up, you'll be given $20 back when you trade your first 100. Kalshi, again, is the largest prediction market in the US, and you can trade practically any real-life event on their platform, from elections to sports to even the weather in your favorite city. For tonight, we have the national championship going on, and things are going to be cinema, to say the absolute least. Miami, against all odds, barely getting into the playoff, has run the table and has now awarded themselves a home playoff game, or rather, a home national championship game, playing arguably one of the best teams in college football history in the Indiana Hoosiers. Make sure to check out Kalshi to trade on the winner of that game. And if you'd rather trade on something rather than a game line, they also have player props like in tonight's game for the Miami Heat against the Golden State Warriors, where you can trade on the amount of points scored by Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Bam Adebayo, and others involved in this game. And again, download Kalshi using the link down in the description and use code DIGESTNBA to get $20 back when you trade your first 100. But now let's get to it and break down the major Ja Morant updates, as he's been in connections to this Heat team more than once, and specifically a lot over the last week and some change, because the Miami Heat are in a very interesting situation. They have a surplus of talent, both young and experienced veterans, but they don't know which direction they should really go in based off the wins and their overall play on the basketball court. It felt like Ja Morant would have been a good fit in Miami due to the fact that his overall skill set is phenomenal, and he needed a refreshing start. We saw it last year firsthand with Jimmy Butler, as he, quote, lost his joy to play the game of basketball. And it felt a lot like a Ja Morant situation in Memphis feels a lot like that situation with Jimmy Butler in Miami last year. Now, Ja Morant has returned to the Memphis Grizzlies, even though it felt like, and we were told based off reports, that he wasn't going to play for Memphis again, especially this season. He came back last night after multiple suspensions and injury issues that he's been dealing with not only this season, but dating back to last offseason and even the season prior, and he performed 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 13 assists, and it wasn't just the overall, those metrics that stand out. He shot 7 of 13 from the field, including 3 of 4 from behind the three-point line, and in those 13 assists that he only had 2 turnovers. He played phenomenal. Overall, a plus-minus of plus 26, and resulted in a major win against a cross-conference rival in the Orlando Magic, a very credible team, as we all know, as Miami Heat fans and supporters, as we run into them 4 times a year, and even more than that with the new NBA Cup layout. It was a great performance from the Memphis Grizzlies, but specifically Ja Morant, as he looked like he was right back to being the Ja of old. And with this happening, his value went up exponentially, because we all know the games prior, but when he was playing for the Memphis Grizzlies earlier this season, he was lackluster, he was up and down, volatile and inconsistent. Last night was a very, very good thing for the Memphis Grizzlies. Not only if they hold on to Ja Morant, are you going to get this level of production or something relatively close to it, that would be a win. But also, if you do decide to move him and teams are interested in going out and acquiring Ja Morant, like the Miami Heat have been rumored to, you're paying a much steeper price. We've broken down the reports of how an unprotected first-round pick would not be required to go out and acquire Ja Morant in a trade. Also, it would probably take one decent player, maybe a salary cap filler, if you will, and another player to go out and acquire Ja Morant. Hopefully, based off reports, Memphis wanted younger players from that group if they were to get a trade done, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, especially for this Miami Heat team. We mentioned this in a previous video on Heat Digest, but we have to mention it again because now we're talking about Ja Morant. Once one well-placed league source insisted to me that the Heat should be scratched as a Morant suitor, even if the terms are favorable if such a move jeopardizes a future trade run at Milwaukee's Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm not going to read the entirety of this quote because that is all we're focusing on in this episode. As Morant and this Miami Heat team seem like it is not a match made in heaven, and this is not going to work out. It's not going to be something pursued by this Miami Heat organization based off of this information and a little bit other that we're going to focus on in just a second, because it seems like Miami is putting all of their chips in on the table for Giannis Antetokounmpo, whether it is in a blockbuster trade before the February 5th deadline this season, or if it's in this up-and-coming offseason post a June 30th date when the season officially flips and Miami then acquires more draft compensation. Now, the idea that was being talked about a lot surrounding this Heat team, and specifically Ja Morant, and the expectation they were going to go out there and trade for him, was the idea that Tyler Hero would be involved in that trade. Tyler Hero, when he is available, which is far and few between because he is one injured. Obviously, he started this season injured after having a late surgery last offseason. He missed the first 18 to 20 games for this Heat team. He then returned. He played a handful of games. He was then sidelined with toe injuries and then ankle injuries and a foot injury. And then he returned again, and the team is volatile. They're not winning as much as they should, especially when they're at full max capacity and max strength with Hero back in that lineup, whether he's coming off the bench or, again, as a legitimate starter. It just is not a winning formula as currently constructed up to this point in the year for this Miami Heat team when Tyler Hero is on the floor and available. Then again, he's not all that available. So you could credit that to the idea that, well, it's hard to get into a winning formula and get into a schematic that works with Tyler Hero if he's never actually there. If you're in for 2 games and then out for 8 games, and then you're back for a game and then you're out for 5 games, then it's just this inconsistent pattern of consistency or a consistent pattern of inconsistency. It's very hard for professional athletes to gel and just like find a rhythm and find their footing together and try to go out there and compete against other very, very, very good athletes and professional basketball players like we have seen from this Miami Heat organization up to this point in this regular season. Now, we got this quote. Shout out to Drew Starr on Twitter as he did another phenomenal job going out and getting the exact quote. And then, again, subtweeting the actual post from Kevin O'Connor down below. It will tag this tweet. It'll take you both to Drew Starr's account in this exact tweet, but it also have Kevin O'Connor's original tweet tagged to it as well if you'd like to go through the entirety of it. We're going to focus on this quote. The one thing I will say about Miami is that I have heard that the Memphis Grizzlies don't want Tyler Hero. So it would have to be some type of other deal involving Miami, or Hero would have to go to a third team, I would think. But we will see. And that, again, is the quote from Kevin O'Connor, and this is very intriguing, as Tyler Hero seems like he'd have the most trade value on this Heat team outside of someone like Bam Adebayo or Khalil Ware, due to the fact that he's only 26 years of age. He has this year plus one more year left on his contract at a decent price tag of $31 and then $33 million before becoming an unrestricted free agent. We know Hero wants a contract extension. Miami has not been willing to go out there and give it to him, mainly because of the lack of availability he has shown through his career, and specifically over the last season or so. So Hero is not available, and based off this information from Chris Harrington, Ja Morant is still expected to be traded by the Grizzlies. We don't know if that's entirely true. We have an idea that, yes, it could happen. Yes, they are still probably shopping him, but the idea that teams are going to be willing to go out there and try to acquire Ja Morant is still pending. And the reason I say that is because of the recent play. And I understand it's only one game, but he's doing well with the reps he is receiving in Ja Morant that we're talking about here. And if you can go out there and produce something along the lines of what we saw last night from Ja Morant and this Grizzlies team against a formidable opponent in the Orlando Magic, the original price tag that we have discussed on this channel ad nauseum has definitely gone up at least a tick, if not many more. Because this is an all-star level point guard, especially when he's producing at this level, not to mention the intangibles he maintains on the floor that allows him to do things like this and put up 24, 5, and 13 in a game while shooting 70% or 54% from the field and a true shot percentage of 70%. He has knocked down 3-point shots at a 75% clip in this game, but also the athleticism that he maintains is in a class of like 3 or 4 in the entirety of the league, especially when you take into account the height that he maintains or therefore doesn't maintain, being a smaller guard in the association. And despite that, being able to posterize basically anybody in the league, including Victor Wembanyama. I don't care if the dunk didn't count. He did it. Wembanyama went up with him, and Ja went up and finished over him. I don't care if the penalty or the penalty. I don't care if the whistle blew the play dead. Those two players still played until the play was over, and Ja was able to complete that dunk. He's a freak. There's no argument about it. So, is Tyler Hero going to be moved? I can't say. Is Ja Morant going to end up in Miami? I also will say probably not, because of the idea that if they get a Ja Morant, they won't be able to go out there and move assets in order to acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo, whether it's this season or in the following offseason. Let me know down below your overall thoughts and opinions on this entire conversation, and I will see you guys on the next episode of Heat Digest. Thank you for watching.